It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That means that's Alan Saunders. Alan, how we doing?
I'm doing good, actually.
Are you sure? There's a little bit of hesitancy. I don't know if people are watching on YouTube. There's a little bit of a pause there as well. Are we sure that we're doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm kind of had a headache all day, to be honest. And I just kind of got to that I can now breathe again part of the arrangement. So yeah, I'm in a good place.
I mean, yeah, yesterday I appreciate you powering through it, but very clearly, in almost like a zombie state on the podcast with the lack of sleep. So
was that bad? Oh my gosh.
Definitely an improvement from that.
I'll tell you what, if I was like that on Afternoon Drive, I hate to hear how it was on
well, no, not necessarily just like
I recorded with Chris Carter 6 hours after Afternoon Drive.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it was more so just I don't know, not necessarily anything in your voice, just almost like the inflection, the energy I could tell was a little bit down, of course, obviously with a lack of sleep. So, but I again, I think that I'm saying that we're a step up from where we were yesterday. Right. So
well, that's good.
Just, yeah, I mean, hey, thank goodness you're not going on that Ireland trip. I can't imagine what you would have been like coming back from that. But anyways, let's talk about some football. Even though the move was not announced by the Pittsburgh Steelers just yet, Jabril Peppers will become a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you are watching or listening to this podcast and you're thinking, what the heck's going on? Why is this coming out later? We were waiting to see if it was officially announced, but it was not. But Jabril Peppers will be joining this football team. Alan, I brought it up literally just yesterday. Is this a possibility? You said you thought so. Coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, he's a good player. He's a player that fits the Steelers. Back when he was cut by the New England Patriots, I did a whole Morning Rush episode about why he is a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just didn't have anywhere to put him because they already had DeShon Elliott and Chuck Clark, and then you lose DeShon Elliott. It's like, yoink. Yeah, we'll take you right now. We got the spot. It's there. I'm interested to see what will happen when DeShon Elliott gets healthy because they didn't have a lot of DBs on this roster, right? They only had 8. So I think there's certainly room to keep a player like Jabril Peppers all season. I don't think you sign a guy of that ilk for a 3-week hello. Now, maybe if it doesn't work out and he doesn't play well, fine, you move on. But if he plays like he's capable of playing, I think he's a better player than Chuck Clark, honestly. I think he'll stick around and be a part of this team for the long haul. And man, the secondary talent's starting to pile up, isn't it? It's looking impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He kind of just fits in with all that, right? Just how they've gone about business this offseason. I know it's no longer the offseason, but had they made this addition in the offseason, he would just fit right in with everything else that they were doing. Hey, we want to be obviously at as much talent as possible right now, but also without giving up the draft capital to do so, and not committing long-term to anything. And Jabril Peppers obviously fits right in that. A 29-year-old safety that's played both safety spots, can play the nickel, can contribute on special teams. That was mentioned as well. Don't know if that was their way of foreshadowing that role is going to happen. For him to get a helmet on game days and stuff like that. In terms of the Chuck Clark thing, yeah, I think I would, trust him more to be able to defend a post and do some things on the back end athletically more than Clark. I appreciate what Clark brought to the table, having to come in relief on Sunday and play more around the line of scrimmage. But I just think if you're asking a lot of 2 deep safety sets or whatever the plan is there, that's not necessarily something that I want Chuck Clark in an ideal world to be doing. So yeah, I'm like you. My first thought was, if this isn't long-term for DeShon Elliott and it's not, what happens when he does come back? Is that potentially bad news for Chuck Clark on the roster?
Could be, but I think like you said, they're same position,
there's different roles to be
different player. I mean, I'm with you. I want Chuck Clark doing exactly what he was doing against the Jets, taking on an offensive lineman and winning the rep to go make a tackle for loss. Not that Jabril Peppers to me is more in terms of his tackling style and his physicality. more like a classic headhunter than like a solid run. He can certainly defend the run. There's no question about that, but it feels more like more Mike Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like guys who come flying out of nowhere and make big hits. Than like a excuse me, a guy that you want like taking on linemen. He's short, right? So he has like short arms, so like shedding blocks. I said 5'11". It's not like short, but it's shorter. So more of like a guy who turns speed to power, comes flying and make big hits than like a block shedding guy who could maybe play linebacker kind of safety.
And with Jabril, I think a lot of it's like temperament over anything else within that, which is kind of like, again,
temperament of this defense. Jalen Ramsey, Chuck Clark, DeShon Elliott, Jabril Peppers.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot more guys than just Peppers and Ramsey that fall into this bucket, but I tweeted out a clip of the Bash brothers from D2 Mighty Ducks going around headhunting as Jabril and Jalen Ramsey within this defense. So I'm certainly excited about what he brings to the table. Yeah.
And as long as they can keep it within the bounds of good taste, awesome. Like that's exactly what you want. You want your defense to be like the bad guys. Like you want your defense to be out there stirring up stuff and trying to get people off their game. And I mean, that 15 yards Ramsey earns at the end of the first half ends up being meaningless, but like that could be a huge play in a game at some point just because he got somebody seeing red. That's quite an asset as long as you can keep things on your side of the rules.
Absolutely. You want grown men that can strike fear into other grown men. I'm curious to watch, not that we play the Jets again this year or anything like that, but I want to watch the Jets next week and see if Garrett Wilson at any point is making the contact catch and if he's able to follow through with doing it. I'm just wondering, like, is that could be in the back of his head now, that contact that Jalen Ramsey made on that last pass breakup, because I think that's always something to monitor. But the other part of that obviously was DeShon Elliott, like I brought up. Do we have any more clarification? Because like depending on who put it out there, like Jordan Schultz said, it could be a couple weeks. Then it was put out there. It's more of a day-to-day thing. Is it somewhere within that? Like, do we have any clarification in terms of how long this could be for DeShon Elliott?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be more like week to week than day to day, I would say. I mean, Mike Tomlin already ruled him out for this week. I would say next week would feel fast, but maybe possible. That I would say that week 4 trip to Ireland feels pretty good by then. And then if not that, certainly after the bye. So
that's the thing that I think about. The thing that I think about is, if you're talking about returning for that Ireland game, having the bye week on the other side of that, does that give more encouragement to the idea of just like, does it make sense to try to get him in this one, or we have the bye on the other side of this, just give him the extra week?
Yeah.
I mean, every football game's important. I don't want to look at it that way. I'm just wondering if that comes into the conversation.
I would say it's different compared to a soft tissue injury where like being ahead of the curve generally creates increased risk of re-injury. Generally with like a knee kind of thing, like either he's going to be cleared or he's not. And if he's cleared, you may as well play him. That's kind of the way I look at that. If it was a hamstring or something, I could see like being a little bit more cautious knowing you have the bye on the other side. But I would say if you're cleared from a knee injury, you should go play if you're going to help the team. And I don't think there's any argument that DeShon Elliott helps the team.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I can't wait till he's back into the fold. And hey, we've spent so much time since this podcast started 3 seasons ago discussing the idea of this team wanting to use a bunch of 3 safety sets.
Matt Damon turning gray meme over here, as you said, 3 seasons.
Well, it's funny because it's like 2 years, but it's 3 football seasons. This is the 3rd football season that we've been doing this podcast. So in that time, we've talked a lot about 3 safety sets, and then something ends up happening, injuries, Minkah Fitzpatrick getting traded, whatever it might be where we haven't seen a ton of it. is having DeShon Elliott back in the fold once that does happen, along with Jabril Peppers, Juan Thornhill, even Chuck Clark is a depth piece there. Jalen Ramsey can play safety. Like, is that finally the way that this comes to fruition?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think they are getting away from that with the Jalen Ramsey signing because, like, he's the third safety and the nickel at the same time. Like, he is all of that. You know, I feel like the three safety package was a way to sort of shoehorn bad personnel into good scheme. And, like, because you had guys like Beanie Bishop and Shannon Sullivan and you know, who maybe weren't really capable of doing every part of the job. I want Jalen Ramsey in the slot all the time. Like that to me is an easy fit. And so I don't know that they need that as much now, but you always need depth. And also, like, Juan Thornhill has not been a healthy player the last couple of years. So stockpiling safety depth is not a bad idea.
I guess my thought with that was, you know, and again, like, one game in, let's see how this continues to track. But like Jalen Ramsey talking about it obviously made it seem like he's just going to travel around with number ones. So my thing was like, okay, well, if that's the case, they're not lining up and they're not lining up in the slot and he goes to outside. Is either Slayer Porter going to kick inside, or like, because if that wasn't going to be the case and you were just taking one of those two guys off of the field, would that be then the way that, you know, it's Jabril Peppers or DeShon Elliott playing in the slot or something like that?
Yeah, I assume that, you know, obviously things were mixed up in the first game because Porter gets hurt, you know.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I would assume that if they need Ramsey out on the outside, that they'll just kick Slay inside.
Okay. Another piece besides the DeShon Elliott that was already rolled out was Derek Harmon. Although were you the one to break this news? I saw it put out there by you first in terms of like starting to work his way back this week.
Yeah.
Unlikely to play, but hopefully week 3 being targeted there. So, I mean, all things considered with what that looked like in that preseason game, I'd say that that's a pretty good sign for Derek Harmon, and they certainly need him.
Yeah. Expected to do some more work this week, starting to get ramped up. You know, reported possible he could play this week, much more likely next week. Then Mike Tomlin ruled him out for this week. You know, it's like those two things are conflicting. You can just look at things from a what is likely and what is not likely lens. And yeah, I always said week 3 feels more likely. I don't know it's 100% he's going to get into week 3, but I feel like that's a target right now. And we'll see how it goes. Very similarly to Elliott, if you can get in, wherever you get in, you get in. I think he'll be a big boost for a defensive line that really struggled against the New York Jets. No two ways around that.
Well, let's talk about it.
It's not a very good Jets offensive line either. Like, that's maybe the worst part about it. This Seahawks offensive line, significantly better, just if you look at the terms of talent, than the Jets.
Well, and I mean, Mike Tomlin obviously not going to acknowledge that and talk down to the Jets offensive line that was put out there, but he's obviously going to have to answer questions about, you know, the run defense and defense in general, and just like where they're fitting bodies on the defensive line, absent of Derek Harmon and stuff like that. And being that it was Tomlin Tuesday, actually, I don't even know if we mentioned that from the top. I always like to on Tuesday, but I don't think I did. Obviously was going to be asked about that. I'm curious what he had to say kind of just about that whole piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, said they're not moving anybody around. Was asked sort of about, I guess, moving Keanu Benton off nose tackle. You and I have talked on here a lot about why that's kind of a red herring in this defense, the way it's played now. The responsibilities of the 3 interior guys when they go base are pretty interchangeable. Everybody has to be able to hold up to a double team. Everybody has to be able to occasionally 2-gap. And if you have one doing it and one not doing it, it doesn't really matter what order you put them in. It's not like the way they used to play this defense where your nose tackle's on an island with nobody around him and he has to take 2 players every snap. You know, the Okie 3-4 defense, outside linebackers are linebackers. Like, those are guys who may rush and may not rush, right? Who are standing up off the ball. And your ends are over the tackle, which means that basically if you're playing Okie 3-4, the nose tackle is 100% getting 2 offensive linemen on every play. When the way the Steelers run their 3-4 now, is basically a 5-man front. If they're in 3-4 defense, both outside linebackers are coming, and all 3 of the inside guys are coming. And so, really, there's a lot of solo blocking going on against the Steelers' base defense these days. And it is not the demand of the nose tackle position that it used to be, because they've tightened the front and because they now use it basically only in run-heavy situations where those outside backers are 100% involved in the rush lane from the get-go. So it's just not the focus it used to be. What happened to Keanu Benton is not going to change any if you move him over a gap last game. Like, it's just like, you got to win one-on-one. In fact, being over the center, you have a little bit of an advantage over the center. He's late to the block with one of his 2 hands, right? I mean, so I think they got to be better. I don't think moving positions helps anyone. Also, like, everyone just has always assumed that Y.A. Black is a nose tackle. He's never played nose tackle. Maybe they can move him to nose tackle. I certainly think he could do it, but he hasn't. And he wasn't great by any stretch when he was out there at end. So why are you putting more on his plate at this time? I don't know that makes sense either. I don't think there's any listen, if the individuals perform at the level they did against the New York Jets, where you play them will not matter. It will not equal success.
You know, maybe a bit of apples to oranges here, but I just feel like we're having a very similar conversation like we did with Broderick Jones' transition from the right to left side.
100%.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, yeah.
Clearly, by the way, just there was no magic beans in moving Broderick Jones off. Oh, he's just going to be great when you move him to left tackle. Like, no, clearly not. Same thing here. You can move Keanu Benton to edge or to end, and it's just going to be a tackle pancaking him instead of a guard. Like, if he plays the same, you know, he can be better. We've seen him be better than he was. He needs to be better than that, or he needs to not play on rundowns, like, which is an option when they get Derek Harmon back. It's not really right now.
No, it's not. But I wanted to ask you specifically with the Y.A. Black thing, because Tomlin said that it is like nose tackle was something that he thinks eventually he can do. Was he asked specifically about that idea, or did he bring that up unprompted?
No, he was asked specifically about that idea.
I was just saying, okay, I think that's important, because if he just unprompted brought that up, I think that would be interesting, and maybe we should be watching for it to be worked in during the season. But I don't know. There's not just like a button to press and fix all of this based off alignment or anything like that. I do think that Derek Harmon is going to be a big piece of this puzzle when he is back. And obviously that can't happen soon enough. But, you know, again, these guys still got to play and play well. It's not just all about where they're lining up. So curious to see how things progress there. Speaking of playing, something that did not happen for Cole Holcomb in this game against the Jets, and although Roman Wilson did not get a single target, and it was only 10 snaps, the same number of snaps as Ben Skoranek within the offense. So anything to say there? I mean, I guess first off, I don't know that we touched on it a bunch, but we had said on Friday when we were doing our predictions, I asked about what the rotation was going to be like at linebacker. And you said you didn't think there was going to be one, was even wondering if Cole Holcomb would get a helmet. Didn't see him. And then in terms of Roman Wilson there, I was a bit surprised that they didn't get him involved at all. I mean, I would have thought maybe even early, similarly to the preseason, they would get him an early target to try to get him going, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, they tried. I think there was one play in the first or maybe second drive where Aaron was kind of looking that way and it didn't come to pass. About what I expected for Roman Wilson. I agree that I thought maybe they would try to manufacture a touch for him just to get him one since he hasn't had one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just like get the ball in his hands, because I mean, I think people either very much overrate or underrate what that does for a player. I think just like that's why you see just teams getting steamed up touches. Again, just because like this is where my mind goes to. People might not get why I'm bringing this up, but like Ohio State a couple weeks ago, Jeremiah Smith has a couple drops early in the game. I'm like, very next drive, they should give him like a bubble screen just to get the ball in his hands. That's exactly what they did.
Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf had a drop and went right back to him in this game.
Yeah,
DK Metcalf
situation like that. Yeah,
doesn't need the confidence boost or anything like that. But I was a little surprised they didn't just try to get him one, maybe on a screen or something, just get him the ball and get him moving. I thought he did a nice job of like doing his job though. Like there's some good blocks in there. There's a clip of him kind of getting in Andre Sisco's face, which like that's how he has to play wide receiver. I want that stuff from him. Like I used the comparison on draft night of like Hines Ward, and I'm not saying he's going to be that good ever, but like that's the sort of paradigm that he can fit into, right? That's the like he can be that guy. Maybe not that level, but
we talked about temperament with
temperament,
Jabril.
right? That's how he has to be successful, and I think it's one of the reasons why like he hasn't looked impressive in practice. I never covered Hines Ward in practice, but I know a lot of guys like that aren't that impressive in practice. Like it takes the physicality, toughness part of the game to get them at their best. And so I was kind of looking forward to seeing if we saw a little bit of that in Roman Wilson, but I'm not overly surprised that it wasn't a big part of the game plan. It does give them a nice little change up to call in week 2. We talked about the sort of like idea of week 1. There's a lot you don't know about your opponent.
Yeah,
I think the Steelers actually, whether intentionally or well, obviously it was intentionally, but I don't think it was for this purpose. But they did like sort of like didn't attempt to pass to Roman Wilson, didn't attempt to pass to Darnell Washington, didn't run with Caleb Johnson. Like they gave themselves some like change ups kind of built in, right? Where it's like there's a lot that we still haven't seen yet entering week 2. If you're going to give somebody one in week 1, maybe it's an advantage to give them none, right? Because now you've hidden sort of like what might be an entire part of your offense from your next opponent. I can very easily see like Kenneth Gainwell got all these touches in week 1, and then week 2, that goes right back to what we were thinking it would be. And then boom, there's Caleb Johnson, or boom, here's like 8 plays designed for Roman Wilson as like a piece of the offense that you're going to show them this, and then we're going to do that. I can definitely see that coming.
I mean, especially if Seattle goes back, watches this game, and they're like, oh, maybe we need to pay a little bit more attention than we thought to Calvin Austin. And all of a sudden, maybe he's the one doing some more clear out work for Roman Wilson, and the roles switch there. I don't know. I thought that was the one thing that stood out to me about what Roman did do in this game, obviously, other than the temperament and blocking and stuff like that. Thought he had some nice clear outs. There was the one Calvin Austin catch on a bootleg from Aaron where Roman was doing a crosser across the field and took the safety with him, and Calvin was kind of wide open. So I am curious to see if that role grows in week 2. But what about Cole Holcomb? Anything to say there? And could, based off the criticism of Peyton Wilson, I don't think that they're just going to like pull the plug on this idea of him being on the field all the time after 1 week. But, obviously Cole Holcomb's kind of lurking there in the shadows.
I would think if there was a game you were going to do that, it would be the Jets. Now Malik Harrison's hurt, so I would expect that we will see Cole Holcomb play. I mean, how many snaps he had? 6, something like that. Like not
4,
a lot, but yeah, okay. I would expect those will all go to Holcomb now. But I don't think they're going to take Peyton Wilson off the field much, if at all. I think they're committed to that project, and he wasn't very good in the first half, especially. I feel like he got better as the game went on. But this is like very different week 2 test here. Very little that applied from last week carries over to this week. And so there's
I mean, we'll talk about that more as the week goes on, but like one similarity that I will say there is like pretty much all their production comes from one receiver. JSN had 124, their 156 passing yards. And I think that's kind of like when you look at Garrett Wilson, he's obviously clearly the number 1 with a bunch of not much behind him. And they have 2 backs that I like. I know Kenneth Walker did not have a very good week 1. I said I think Zach Charbonnet actually fits that offense a little bit better for Kubiak.
I actually said that today, that you kind of know what you're getting from Kubiak because he's been around so much, but that Walker's a weird fit for that offense. Like is not like a player he's had before. Good call, Smitty. Smitty knows ball.
Well, listen, I was avoiding Kenneth Walker in fantasy drafts, and I wanted Zach Charbonnet very late in them. Like amongst like guys that are, you look at like how many backfields are like very clearly two guys now? There's a lot in the NFL. So Charbonnet would have been the back in that backfield that I would have wanted to covet for that reason. I like the fit a lot better for him. But anyways, so I think there's some similarities in that, but obviously the quarterback very different on this side of things. And like you said, they haven't had a bunch of injuries hamper what they're doing on the offensive line or anything like that. So it's going to be a different assignment for sure, but we'll talk about that more of that obviously as the week goes on. I think this question could potentially kind of play into all of this that we're talking about. My guy Tevin from Twitter here, Tevin Carter, said, in general, I'm sure some things are easier than others, but how easy do you think it is for coaches to make adjustments in game when things aren't going according to plan? How confident are coaches to want to tinker with changes? Not getting overly worked up about the run game woes on both sides yet, but coach mentioned making sure adjustments schematically to help stop the run.
Yeah, I think this schematically thing is the important part. You have to figure out why what is happening. And then that's how you determine if you need to make a change or you should stay the course. Is what's happening because of some schematical advantage that the other team has developed, right? If so, yeah, the coach needs to make a change immediately because you're not putting your players in the best position to succeed. Is what's happening because you're getting individually beaten? In that instance, I think it's fair to give a longer leash. To let it go for a half. And then maybe at halftime, you just say, all right, Broderick Jones just isn't going to block Will McDonald. We got to we got to attach Darnell Washington to his hip today. Like, you understand? But you don't react to one or two plays because it's not schematical. You're putting your player in position to succeed. He's just not succeeding, right? And so maybe like a half, you would say like, okay, the Steelers struggles with play action, protecting the quarterback and play action pass. You give it a half, and then you say maybe even you give that a whole game because they were at the same time having a lot of success when Aaron had time to throw the ball. And now maybe you say, well, maybe it looks like let's just do it 5 times instead of 10 next game. Try to protect him a little bit, right? And then there's randomness, right? How much of this is just if you give if you give Justin Fields those windows he was throwing into all game long for 10 games, how many times is the completion percentage going to be what it was?
Right.
0 more times, right? So like you did everything right, it just didn't go your way. But so then making a change is a mistake, no matter when you make it, right? Early or late. And so that's kind of the way you got to figure out why. And it's hard live, man. Like, I got a better view than most of the Steelers coaches do. You guys got a better view than most of the Steelers coaches do. From the sideline, it is really hard. Now, with the iPads, they can do a little bit, but it's sometimes really hard to figure out what's happening and why it's happening in a game.
And like, obviously you got to do whatever you can to get that win, but then it's almost like what enters my mind is, do you overcorrect and think that that's something that has to be a long-term change or just wasn't that player's day or something like that? Like, not using a Steelers example, but say Patrick Mahomes was just having a really bad game, threw like 5 picks in a game or something like that. The Chiefs aren't going to overcorrect and all of a sudden not trust Patrick Mahomes to throw the football the next game. Maybe they had to become more run dependent in that game or whatever like that and take the ball a little bit out of his hands and change the game script, but that's not going to change their overall philosophy about their offense.
The next time the Baltimore Ravens need to salt away a victory, are they going to be afraid to give the ball to Derrick Henry?
Very relevant example.
Last time, right? Like, is that what's going to happen? Or no, like that's ridiculous, right? And so, there's a balance there, and you actually, it's sometimes hard to figure out in game. In between game, it's usually pretty easy.
What did you make as we wrap up here? What did you make of the first week of the NFL season, by the way? Just overall thoughts, not maybe as it relates to the Steelers, but just in general watching the other games that you did.
Well, not to toot my own horn, but I don't know if you saw the results in Chris Carter's Pick'em League, but I went 13-3. So like, I feel like I
also had 3 losses, and one of them was a very stupid pick. I don't know why I picked Carolina over Jacksonville. I wish I had that one back. So yeah, I should have been 14-2, but that's pretty good.
Chiefs.
What were the other losses?
Chiefs, Ravens,
Yep,
and I don't remember what the other one was.
You just said my 3. I picked the Chiefs to beat the Chargers. I picked the Ravens to beat the Bills, and I picked the Panthers to beat the Jaguars. Well, you said 2. I said the other one.
Yeah, I don't remember what the other one was. Yeah, I don't remember. There were 3 though.
All right. The other thing, we got some new SN Plus subscribers, Alan, that are getting shout outs
nice.
on the bottom there. Caleb Thompson, Drake Barrett, and my guy Owen Prutton as well. And Owen is a Canadian. We appreciate that. Somebody that's not in the US subscribing to SN Plus. Everybody gets a shout out, but if you're outside of the US, you get an even special shout, a more special shout out.
And I got a DM from a member of the audience today from Saudi Arabia, Smitty, which I think is probably we had an Aussie once, right? So maybe not the farthest, but like got to be up there. Odai Al Sharif, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Reached out to me on Twitter, sent me a DM, says he's a big fan. Studied in Houston when he was in school, and now he's back in Saudi Arabia, but a big Steelers fan. Picked it up while he was in Houston, apparently. So there you go. Thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. What time of day, if you're waking up to, like, if you're not even waking up, maybe, what time of day do the Steelers play in Saudi Arabia? That's my question. I want to know what his schedule has to be like to make sure that he's able to watch his football team.
Yeah, it's like 7 hours off, maybe something like that.
In which direction?
So it's like 1 a.m. there right now.
Okay. So that would mean, like, but is it this? What day is
it?
1
p.m. kickoff is a primetime game for them.
Okay. All right. So all right, I got you. That's not bad.
But a Monday night football game.
Oh God. Yeah.
Is kicks off at 3:30 in the morning.
My man is looking forward to that Ireland game.
Yeah, that would be a good one. That's a good one.
But we appreciate that. Appreciate everybody that subscribed to SN Plus. Appreciate all the DMs that we get telling us where you guys are watching or listening from. Continue to put those in the YouTube comments, even if you think it's like super boring and you're right in Pittsburgh, PA. We want to know where you're watching or listening to the podcast from. Is there something else that I wanted to? I don't think so. No, I think we covered it. Alan, tell the people they find you.
Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now, the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Sign up for SN Plus. You get a shout out here on the podcast. You get ad-free reading at SteelersNow.com. You get connected with our Pittsburgh Baseball Now and Pittsburgh Hockey Now sites as well for their Plus content. You get all the best stuff from me, DB, the rest of the Steelers Now team. You get our subs-only live stream, which is coming up for the month of September. We still haven't picked a date, Smitty. We got to nail that down. And also, like, my undying love and gratitude, which is worth nothing financially, but everything emotionally. And of course, anyone can like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. We have it just went up. It went up since I started doing this read here. 16,600 and Clark Hagens. 53.
So good. Who else was 53 besides Pounce, Hagens?
There was a linebacker, I gotta think of the name, back in the 90s that was 53. I think he was an edge too.
I want to say like somebody super obscure has worn it like recently though. Definitely a Johnson.
Green.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one after Pouncey, of course.
Yeah. Even after that though, I'm pretty sure somebody's worn 53.
Who would have been the most recent one? Eku wore it last year.
Eku Leota.
Yeah. And then you're going to go way back to the 80s. Brian Hinkle was a very good 53 inside linebacker for the Steelers. No, Hinkle was outside linebacker. I can't think of
Henry Davis, not to be confused with the Pittsburgh Pirates catcher.
I don't know anything about
70 to 73.
About football, Henry Davis.
Steve Conley in the late 90s.
That's the one I was thinking of. Steve Conley. Yes. Late 90s.
Here's the one I was talking about. Kyron Johnson.
Kyron Johnson was 53. There you go.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Add to that number. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Keep us growing here. That arrow continues to point up, and we appreciate everybody that's part of that. Also, leave us a 5-star review if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. We got 45 of these bad boys, and they are all 5 stars, so we appreciate that if you are on Apple. Can't see the exact number on Spotify, but continue to do so over there as well. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok. You can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, Alan Saunders, and myself. Thanks for jumping in and taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.